My name's Susan Tillett, and I'm the executive director of the Mesa Refuge. And what a wonderful group of writers, artists, old friends, and new friends. And for those of you who are new to the Mesa, we're a retreat for writers and activists in Point Reyes Station, a little over an hour and a world away from San Francisco. We've been in business about 23 years, and although we only have 2 or 3 residents at a time, that's added up to over 900 in our history. So those lucky people get to spend 2 weeks listening to the muse, doing their work, and we're particularly happy to support those people whose work we feel has the potential to change the world. So every spring, we choose 6 or 7 of our alums whose work embodies this change-making aspect of our mission. And it honors them. And I think it also gives our audience a chance to learn the stories of how the time at the Mesa grows into these projects and goes out into the world. And so Tiffany was Change Maker of the Week, and Kamala's going to put the link in the chat box, and you can see the kind of bio that we do on Tiffany. And we do this as our spring fundraising campaign. So you're already supporting our work by being here today. But if you feel moved to support the Change Makers, the link is right there. So it's been about a year since the pandemic meant that we could no longer have public events. We have been able to have residents two at a time, but we haven't been able to have our open houses. So we started this program called From the Gathering Room. And the Gathering Room is the wonderful book-lined big room at the Mesa where we come together to hear our residents read to us, and we talk about all kinds of wonderful things. And I just want to thank all of the residents who volunteered their time this year to make From the Gathering Room possible every single month. It's been one of those silver linings. Doing Zoom programming was not on my goal list for 2020, but there are things about it, like sharing things in the chat and having people from all over the country and all over the world that I really love. So if you're having any Zoom issues, Kamala Tully, who's our program manager, wave to the people, Kamala. She is looking out for you, and she's standing ready to help you. So just jot something into the chat and she'll jump on it. And also later in the program, there's going to be a chance for you guys to ask questions. So as questions occur to you, feel free to jot them in the chat and we will come back to them. We are recording this session, and so once it's been edited, it will show up on our website, and you're all welcome to visit it as often as you like. I am delighted to be joined today by my friend and colleague, Janet Heller, who is executive director of Chapter 510, and one of the best collaborators I've had. I think we all know that collaboration is sometimes a real pain in the neck, and every so often it yields more than the sum of its parts. And our collaboration has been that sort. We're going to be joined by 2 other remarkable women, Tiffany Golden and Laura Atkins, who are both alums of the Mesa Refuge and both write for audiences of children and young adults. And we want to keep today informal, feeling like a workshop, like we're all sitting around the gathering room, rather than being a really formal webinar. So in that spirit, each of these remarkable women is going to introduce herself. And we'll start with Janet, who will tell you her part in our story. Janet?
Thank you so much, Susan, and honored to be with you and your community and to have our communities come together. I'm Janet Heller, and I am the Executive Director of Chapter 510. And if you're new to our organization, we are a youth writing and publishing and bookmaking center in Oakland, California. And for the last 7 years, we've been bringing youth together, 8 to 19 years old, primarily Black, brown, and queer youth, to have them write, come together in a safe and creative space. And our organization is made up of teaching artists and teaching artists of color who are the leaders of the conversation and who inspire our program. And it's just great to have Tiffany Golden be here today as a representative of kind of, to me, the best writer and inspirer of writing that I've ever met. And someone who inspired me to be the person I am today is Judith Tannenbaum. And Judith and I worked together for many, many years creating Writers Core and remained in touch. And Judith is a very accomplished Bay Area writer, activist, and teaching artist whose whole work was dedicated to the practice of community arts. She's a well-known author and just an important figure in championing the field of teaching arts and both the professionalization of it and the spirit of it. When Judith passed in December 2019, one of the ways I wanted to honor her and her friends and family was to give an opportunity for teaching artists like Tiffany to leave their teaching hat at home and go spend some time on their own writing, thinking, resting, and giving a chance to recharge. And so the Judith Tannenbaum Teaching Fellowship was formed to honor Judith, and the very first fellow is Tiffany Golden, who's here today. And we are very happy to work with Mesa Refuge because they are on the edge of so many things. And one of their charges is around seeing that writing is an act of liberation and that teaching artists are at the center of that, and they need to be cared for. And so today we're here to listen and learn from Tiffany and from Laura Atkins, and I'm really happy to be here. And I'm going to pass it to Laura, I believe.
Right. That is true. We're going to give Kamala a moment to switch spotlights. As if by magic.
Ta-da!
There. That's how we want it to be, right, Tiffany?
Yep.
Well, thank you. I'm going to just say thank you to Mesa and everyone. And basically, Tiffany and I now are going to be in conversation with each other. And we're going to start by introducing ourselves. So, Tiffany, do you want to tell the world about yourself?
Okay. My name is Tiffany Golden. I am a children's writer and educator. I've been teaching pretty much after school in creative arts for about 19, 20 years now. For the last, I'd say since about 2018, I've been working exclusively at Chapter 510 in the Department of Make Believe, being one of the lead artists with their picture book workshops for youth and their novel writing. And we're writing a musical and we're writing screenplays for middle school. So I've been enjoying the freedom and imagination that I've been able to put into place at Chapter 510. It feels like a natural home for me. So I definitely enjoy it for sure. And what about you, Laura? What you do?
I appreciate what you do. That sounds awesome. And working with kids, and I've heard some of the music that you all, I've seen the books, of course, but also heard the music from Chapter 510 and been pretty blown away by what you all are creating there. My background for a long time was as a children's book editor. So I worked in children's publishing at Children's Book Press in San Francisco, and then at Lee and Low Books as an editor for a couple of years, publisher of multicultural picture books, and then ended up sort of shifting gears, went into academia for a while in children's books, and then got an MFA myself in writing. And that kind of pushed me to, I think, have the confidence, because I was like, oh, I'm an editor, I'm not a writer. And then finally I was like, no, I think I can write, I can try. So that helped. And then I ended up through kind of talking to different people, sideways connected to Elaine Ellenson, who's here now, because she helped write Wherever There's a Fight with Stan Yogi. And then I ended up co-writing Fred Korematsu Speaks Up with Stan, and then Biddy Mason Speaks Up with Arisa White, which are both from Heyday, and nonfiction biographies of people who fought for rights in California history. And then I'm also a teacher. So I started the Manzanita program last January, which is a mentoring and workshop program. And we currently have 9 members. Angela Dalton is one of them, and she's here today. She also is a Mesa Refuge alum. And that's a workshop and community support and just a really wonderful kind of creative cauldron. Mm-hmm. But Tiffany, you do more than work at 510, and you talked a little bit, but could we hear a little more about your own writing and how you've gotten your stories into the world?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's really awesome is that the people that I'm born to are inherently creative. So my mom is a captivating storyteller. So whether she's, giving what we call the tea, which is she won't say gossip, but it's like, she's giving you the information of what's going on in the community. So whether it's that, or when I was little, she used to tell stories. She always was very captivating to me in the way that she presented work and story. And my father, amongst a lot of things, is a visual artist and woodworker. So growing up, I would be surrounded by like his paintings and things that he would create, and his paintings, hang in my grandparents' house and all of our family's houses. And they're just these beautiful expressions of Black love and Black characters. So it was just all this creativity around me, in addition to both of my parents doing a lot of community work. So, my mom has a food ministry where she feeds people in the community. And my dad really, he's retired now, but he did a lot of work helping young men transition back into society from incarceration. So just having those things modeled of living a meaningful life and having a part of you that's very creative, I think that has been a huge impact for how I express my life, and, became the little family artist weirdo / type. So yeah, that's the genesis of Tiffany Golden.
That's very cool. Actually, my grandfather was an artist. Shout out. My mom's here today, Carol, and her father, David. And it was in his 50s that he became an artist. So I think he's become sort of a model for me, because I've started to do like visual art lately. And I'm like, God, this is amazing. Like, how did I not know this was here? And I love that connection to our ancestors, right? That have brought us here. And actually my mom, who's here, is an activist, my dad. So I also grew up surrounded by people who were really dedicated to being part of community, right? And then we have to support our community.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what should we talk about? I mean, like what drives you to write the way you write, and like what's important for you to tell in terms of your stories? Do you focus on story first, or do you focus on the need for things to be just? Like, how do you approach your work?
Yeah, I think it depends. Like with the Fighting for Justice series books, they came to me kind of because Molly, the editor from Heyday, saw me on a panel. Actually, Aya de Leon, who's here today, was on that panel. But and then I think with other writing, it just tends to be connected to what's around me. So like I have a picture book manuscript I'm playing with now that's about loving the beach, which I love, but it's a non-binary kid, and just to kind of reflect family and community and the kinds of stories that it feels like we need more of.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? What drives you? Where do your stories come from?
Well, I think my stories come from, I really enjoyed my childhood and, just having my family, my extended family. So there's just this place of like love and support, and I would say like this protection from the outside world of like how you grow up and you were like, oh, wow, my parents really did protect me from a lot of stuff. So there was that. And I think now, I realize how resilient, especially as a Black person, how resilient we end up having to be. And so there's this place where I want to acknowledge the resilience that we have, but I also want to create joyous books that really celebrate the love and the everyday exchanges that we have, to not just serve as counter narrative, but to just really highlight the love in every day that we don't necessarily get to see. We see, historically, we've endured a lot of pain and a lot of painful things. And there's a call to me to write about those things. There has to be a place where that's not all that I write. It's important, but there has to be a place where I honor the joy, the love, the resiliency, the warrior, like all the things that have been poured into me by my parents and my siblings and my family and my community as a whole and my ancestors, to show all of those things. And that in and of itself is like a huge undertaking. So I just try to okay, I'm gonna just focus on this for this project. You know what I mean? So that's how I try to come at my work.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then when you're like at Chapter 510 and working with young people, how does that kind of flow from you? How the teaching artist, what's kind of some of your philosophy around that?
My philosophy basically is Miss T loves the babies. And there's just something about children that I freaking love. I just love kids. I did not like being a kid, and I did not like kids when I was a kid. But when I got older, I don't know I think it was when my first niece, Jasmine, was born. It was just something so precious about her, watching her come into the world, watching her develop, watching her innocence, and then seeing that develop over time with each one of my nieces and nephews, and being able to contribute something of meaning to their life. When I was young, my mom always had this thing she would say. She's like, I want my kids to have good memories. And she would always try to make sure that we had special times. And so there's a place where you get to gift that to someone, and you get to show them that I see you, you're precious, and you have something to say, and I want to hear it, even if I'm disorganized and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? I still want to hear what it is that you have to say, because you deserve to be heard.
Oh.
So, yeah.
And you've helped these kids like publish their own books, right? What is that like to see the kids like hold their books when they have them out?
It's so interesting because, you know, I think the ones that move you the most are the ones who are just like, don't think they can do it. And they're just like, I can't do it. I can't write. I can't, you know, we have to be like, well, what if you could? Like, say you could write, right? So what would you write then? You know, and I really try to disarm them with an innate amount of goofiness that I just have. I don't know where I'm got being goofy from, but it just is what it is. I'm a goofy person. So I just try to like, you know, joke around. I adapt the dad jokes, call them auntie jokes. And they're just like, oh my God. But to give them space to where they realize that being perfect is not the goal. Doing something right the first time is not even necessary. The goal is to make an effort, and that effort can always be improved upon. But it's okay to just try. You might find that you can do something you never thought you could. And that's what I try to impart in my classes with young people.
Yeah, I was saying wisdom for all ages. Right. Like, I think all of us need to learn, right? That you got to start somewhere, and you got to learn. And I think with creative work especially, we get so many messages from society that are so judgmental, and like, you have to learn, or you're not as good as this person, or it's like you have to unlearn or like push back, right? Those messages.
Yeah, I really feel like, you know, insecurity is such a driving force of capitalism. It makes so much money for people to be shaped to be insecure. It makes so, you know, so I've seen it where it's not supported for you to be confident or to like just be okay with you tried something and it wasn't super great or whatever, but you tried. You know what I mean? So I think, to me, just trying something and maybe getting better at it as opposed to getting great at it is a revolutionary act. Be like, you know, it's going against the machine. You know?
Maya, who is here and who's been saying dropping wisdom, she spoke to the Man's Nita group, and one of her pieces of advice to the group was lower the bar. And I was like, you're right. I mean, in terms of aesthetics, and you brought out your own book, right? You self-published the book. Mm-hmm. Out. As did Angela, who's here, as is Aya, who is here. Like, and there is an aesthetic kind of tyranny that happens in the traditional publishing world that can really shut things down. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, and in service, I think, of sharing our work, I think we're going to kind of start shifting gears towards each of us reading so that people can kind of get to know us better.
Yeah. What are you going to read? What are you going to read?
Well, I'm going to read, I kept changing my mind. I'm going to read from an introduction, and there's a little story behind it that I'm going to tell. But I think we get to hear you read first.
Okay.
So let's hand it over to you to share what you've got.
Okay, so what I'm going to share is it New Press, Janet? New Village Press? Yes, New Village Press. They are doing a book called The Book of Judith, and it is one that honors Judith Tannenbaum, who I was the teaching artist fellow, the first teaching artist fellow that Janet had mentioned. So I am contributing to this book. So I'm going to be sharing my contribution to the book. Okay. Okay, here we go. I didn't know Judith Tannenbaum. I learned about her not even a year after she passed when I was nominated for the 2020 Judith Tannenbaum Teaching Artist Fellowship through the organization that I work with, Chapter 510 in the Department of Make-Believe. What I do know about Judith is that she found teaching meaningful and wanted to empower others to teach well. I feel a strong connection to Judith as a teaching artist who writes. Teaching is a unique career where it's easy to give all you have to those in your care. Writing requires time to nurture your voice. So learning self-care is a necessary tool for any teaching artist and practicing writer. It is something that I'm still learning. In early 1999, I had a life crisis. I suffered a deep depression. I attempted suicide. I am thankful that I survived that crisis. This is a letter to that younger me. Dear Tiffany, you think you have failed. You haven't. You think you have nothing to contribute. You do. I know life doesn't seem clear right now. You are overwhelmed with pain that you thought would be easily resolved if you just faced it. Here's what I can tell you. I understand the depths of despair that you feel. I also know who you are. You are resilient. You're going to make it through this tough time, even if it doesn't seem like it. Soon you will try something new. You will embark on a new journey. You will teach. Teach what? Filmmaking, cooking, poetry, writing, instrument making, collage, art, creative writing, nutrition, mindfulness, songwriting, reading, and science. I know you are wondering how you can teach most of the things on that list. Easy. You keep learning. You keep growing. You never give up. Sure, you have meltdowns and battle depression and cry a lot. But here's one thing that you do. You choose to keep growing. Soon you will get the space you need to look at what pains you. You will breathe. You will teach a class. That class will change your life. You will shift from student to shepherd. Souls will be in your care. Impressionable souls, hurting souls, kind souls, brave souls, beautiful souls. They will grow to trust you. They will grow to love you. And you will trust them. You will love them. They will make you learn to problem solve on your feet. They will teach you to dig a little deeper, to ask, what's really going on with you? They will make you know the importance of seeing people, believing in people, and believing in yourself. Will teaching be easy? Good God, no. But it will teach you patience with others and yourself. It will teach you that people can come back from mistakes and try again, that you can try again, because you will try again. With every lesson you teach, you will get a chance for your heart to heal and open a little bit more. You will see the brilliance in others, their divine light. You will see them struggling. And though you cannot always take away someone's pain, you will be able to sit with them. And like you, they will get through it. You'll be named Miss T, nicknamed Miss T by one of your students. And it will remind you of Grampy calling you Big T. And you will love it because teaching will feel like home. Teaching allows for the community and connection you crave. And even though your first time will feel like a disaster, you will get better at it. It will bring you joy. It will bring you peace. It will let you love and be loved. You are meant to teach, Tiffany Golden. Hang in there. You have much life to live. With love, future Miss T. Thank you. So goofy.
Wow. I'm sure I'm not the only one who shed some tears. That was really powerful.
Yeah. My mom over here crying. Oh, I have no tissue, Mom. I'm sorry.
Oh, those kids are very, very lucky.
Thank you. I'm lucky to have them. Thank you.
Is there anything I don't feel like I can even quite, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say before I share something.
I feel very blessed and honored to have survived such a difficult time. And I feel very grateful for all the people who loved me and got me through it. And it feels like a blessing to be on the other side and share all that love with the children that mean the world to me. So, yeah.
Well, and thank you for being so open, Tiffany. These are, to share and be vulnerable this way. You are not alone, as you know, I'm sure. And it means so much for people to be brave and share that. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. All right. Well, okay. What I have to share is very different. I'm not quite sure how to shift. That was so beautiful and personal. I was going to share from some work that I developed sort of out of being at the Mesa Refuge. And maybe we'll briefly sort of say something about what an amazing opportunity it was just to have that time, with the room you sleep in and the writing shed and the hummingbirds and the flowers and the apples. I was there in the fall, and the deer that would come and eat the apples, and the dogs that came from next door, even though they weren't supposed to be there. And but I still love seeing the dogs. Just there is something when I got there, people said that's magical about. Like I think I read in the Notebook, right? And someone's like, "This place is magic. Like things will happen." Did you find that? Yeah. Which room were you in, Tiffany? Where were you sleeping?
I was in the lower. Oh, I had the run of 2 rooms.
The west and east one down below?
Yeah, so thanks to Covidra, as I call her, I was able to have kind of like the bottom room space in both decks and one of the writing sheds. So yeah.
Sweet. I was in the west shed, which has just this amazing, the sun comes in, I'd have the door open, right? Just soak it in. But I was doing research on kind of an intense topic. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen if I can remember how to do that. I'm still so kind of moved by what you said. It's a little hard to think about anything else. So when I was there and I kind of created this at the end, you have to do a little share, or you're invited, let's say, to do a little share at the end. It's nice. And so I was doing research on the founding of California and whiteness and race. And so I spent some time going to Drake's Beach and the ocean to kind of bring in wisdom, and then a lot of time reading and doing research. So this is some of the kind of drawings and thinking that I did. And I wrote this preamble. I was thinking I would share this, but I'm actually going to share something else. And this was sort of looking at what happened in that initial encounter that probably happened at Drake's Beach. But when I shared this piece, Doris Ober was there, who runs the West Marin Journal. Oh, and actually, so what I shared, and a lot of the focus is on the delegates of the 1849 First California Constitutional Convention and the debates that they had, specifically looking at race and how race was talked about, and the way people in the room talked about race and whiteness, specifically in terms of suffrage, who got to vote, citizenship, And there were efforts while slavery was banned. There were multiple day-long debates about banning free Black people from the state. And so learning a lot about our history that I had not learned, that we don't learn. So after that, and this is sort of a mock-up I did at the beach of like thinking, so just a little behind the scenes, and it doesn't all happen, when you're sitting at your computer. And I started to link some of these ideas to kind of legal implications. This was in part in connection to having worked on the Gold Chains Project, which with the ACLU of Northern California. And actually, I would love to share that link, which I didn't give to Kamala, so I'll do that. But as a result, Doris Ober invited me to submit and kind of tweak my piece for the West Marin Review, which has come out. It's the latest issue, and it's called Whiteness and the Founding of California. And it's for adults, really, looking at those debates. But what I'm going to read now, because I'm still trying to figure out how to turn this into a children's book, I'm kind of struggling, but I am going to read a sample introduction to the book that I am writing. So this is the sample introduction. When you think about California, what comes to mind? For many, this means beaches, California dreaming, and innovative ideas. The state offers a diverse and multilingual model for the future. What most people don't know is that California's founding fathers talked about not allowing Black people into the state, or that they only wanted white people to vote, or that while slavery was supposedly illegal in the state, people in power created laws that allowed white people to still enslave Black people and also to enslave California Indians. In 1849, 48 delegates gathered at the first California Constitutional Convention. These men, and they were all men, debated for 6 weeks to establish the rules and structures that the state would be built upon. Race, and saying that white people would have power, while people not called white would not, underpinned many of these debates, and also the rules and laws they created. This book offers a different and more honest history than most of us learn. You might wonder why we need to look back at this difficult past. It is important because, first, it is true. We need to look honestly at our past instead of creating myths that cover up the hard stuff. It is also important because it gives us a chance to examine how the world looks today in a more honest way. Lots of the inequities and problems in our society have roots in the past. In California, this past meant that schools and streetcars were segregated. People not seen as white could not testify against a white person in court. People not seen as white could not vote for many years or become citizens if they came from other countries. They could not buy land. And Native Californians could not carry on the way of life. They had been living on this land for thousands of years. This book will also show examples of how people resisted, and they always resisted. Members of the colored conventions movement paid white lawyers to challenge racist laws. California Indians fought back when people took their land. Communities fought for their rights collectively, even when they faced powerful people who had wealth, weapons, and the power of institutions. Today, we see traces of these race-based laws and exclusions in unequal access to good schools, in the numbers of people sent to prison, in lending practices by banks, and more. And that is another reason why a book like this is crucial. When we recognize the wrongs from the past, we can reckon with them, find ways to try to apologize and make reparations, and move forward in a new way. That's it.
So important. Thank you for sharing that. It's just so important to even a state like California, where you're like, yes, California. It's we're all here in this little, sometimes the Bay is, what do you call that? It's like a little bubble sometimes from the rest of the world. You're like, even that bubble had some issues. So, it's important to know the history of California.
Yeah, and having grown up in California, it's just not what we learn, right? There's a sort of superiority that you can have here growing up. Like, oh, that racist stuff all happened in the South.
Right.
And really, as Elaine is commenting right now, and as Elaine and Stan's book, Wherever There's a Fight, showed, the history of the state of California is full of civil rights, infringements and people having to fight for their rights. And we really need to learn more about it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. How long have you been working on that?
Well, I really dove into it at the Mesa Refuge, which was November last year. No, 2 years ago. The year before COVID.
Okay. 2019?
I think it was 2019. Yeah.
It's all a blur now. It's like,
It really is. So no, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around how to turn it into a book.
right on. Right on.
Yeah, thank you. All
How
right.
much more do you have to go on it?
Oh, a lot. I mean, I've got a proposal, but I don't know that I found an angle on it that quite works yet. I actually talked to Heyday, the publisher, with my kind of first proposal, and they had some questions about, like, why are kids going to want to read about the 1849 California Constitutional Convention? Like, what's going to be attractive about that? And I'm like, well, I'm going to make it really exciting.
You'll see. I'll show you all.
Totally.
Right on.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think Susan was going to step in, right? Am I right on this, Kamala? And we're going to do questions. Is that where we are now? On the
Sure.
our activity. We're doing our activity, right?
Yeah, right. Let's keep coming in the chat and go right into the activity.
Okay. I just want to give a shout out to my daddy who's here, James Golden. Daddy, are you still here? Maybe. Maybe left. Okay. Maybe you're saying bye. Okay. Anyway, my daddy was here. Okay, so we're going to do an activity that honors Judith and that honors how I like to connect with people by doing something that we make on our own and contribute together into a collective piece. So you should have a piece of paper and some kind of writing utensil. So I'll give you a moment so you can get your paper and pencil together, or pen or whatever, but it has to be paper and pencil, or a writing utensil rather. And then when you're done, you can just write "got it" in the chat. That's how I teach in my classes. Just write "got it." Perfect. Thank you, Haley. Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. So one of the things that Judith really loved, and I love this opportunity to honor her, is she used to do a lot of collages with hands. And so when Janet and I talked about this activity, we wanted to incorporate hands. And I thought about, what do hands do? Hands, we feel things with hands, we build things with our hands, and we communicate with our hands. So hands are very important to us. So what I'd like you to do is, just like when you were in preschool or kindergarten, I'd like you to go ahead and make a tracing. Make a tracing of your hand. So you don't have to write "I feel, I build," but that's what this exercise is called. I feel, I build. Okay. And then when you're done, just try this. Done. This is something that's funny is that when I was coming up, how teenagers always kind of rag on each other. So this guy named Johnny Hurd used to tease me because he was like, "You have big hands." And he used to call me Big Hand Johnson. And that stuck in high school. People will call me Big Hand Johnson. So anyway, it's one of those things that you carry with you. So, okay, good. So we have our hand together. So the first thing we're going to do is, in the thumb space here, I want you to write, what brings you joy? What brings you joy? And that's going to be very specific to you. So mine is children. Children bring me joy. So you're just going to write, what brings you joy? And then in that index finger space, you're going to write what you need. What do you need? It could be something as simple as lunch. It could be something more metaphysical, like I wrote breath. I need to breathe more. So it could be as simple or as, uncomplicated as possible, as you would like it to be. But it can be really deep too. I'm a Scorpio. I don't mind going deep. It's my deal. And your next one, your middle finger, what do you fight for? What do you fight for? This is going to be different for all of us. Some people fight for love or justice. Some people fight for equality. Just one word, something that you fight for. Okay? And on your ring finger, where do you stand? That's kind of an abstract question. So I wrote, I stand with love. But you could also put something less abstract. You could think about like a theme for your life. Like, what is your life meaning? If someone were to look at you, you represent what? The children often teach me to be less abstract about things because they hate it. They really do. And then lastly, where do you want to grow? So it can be something, kind of like an abstract. You could want to get taller. I don't know. It's none of my business. I put security. So security is very important to me. It could be physically secure, financially secure, all those things. Okay. Let's see. So once you have your 5 fingers, things that are important to you, I'm going to put a link into the chat. Okay. Make sure that I send it to everyone. Okay, there's a link in the chat. And now I'm going to share my screen so you can see what it's supposed to look like. All right. So you're going to get something that looks like this. This is actually Judith's work. This is a hand collage that she did in one of her 2004 collage books that Janet was so generous to let me use. So in each one of these thingies here, you're going to type one of your words. So you can go in order or you don't have to. So you're just going to write my first word, my second word, my third word, and my last word. Okay. Okay. And then you're just going to push enter. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And when you're done, you can just go ahead and type done. The pointer finger is what do you need? Thank you, Aya. Okay, let's see. Now.
So Tiffany, are we sharing our words in the chat or?
I'm going to show you.
Oh, I know. I get anxious that I've done it wrong.
You did not do
Miss
it.
T.
Here are the words that we are building together.
Got it. Okay.
So as you enter your words, here are all the things that our hands build. Bravery, connection, sharing, nature, children, space, individuation, platform, the underdog, rooted in Oakland, the ocean. We build so many things together, and each one of us brings something beautiful to this place that we call life. So this is just a reminder to let you know that what you have to give, what you have to share is important. And look at these words here: community, freedom, understanding, equity. These are the things that more than one person said, that we all said is important to us. So you can just take a moment to look at what we built together. And thank you for participating in creating something together with me. I appreciate it.
It's Susan again.
Hey,
I'm still not seeing where to put my words.
Oh, okay. Let me give you the link. Okay. So, hey, Susan. So, Susan, did you get this link? This one here?
Why am I not seeing it?
Oh, it's in the chat. Did you look in the chat?
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Oh, no
I
worries.
want to get my words in there.
I want you to have your words in there.
Don't start talking about them yet.
I already talked about them, Susan. So I'm done with the exercise. But I will. You know what I'll do? I will send out a PDF or something, and then it'll have every other stuff in there. Welcome to teaching. This is exactly what happens.
Email at the end, and you can have it actually email it to you so you can see it live. So Susan can do that.
That'll be all. I'll give the whole explanation, and then I'll give them the lesson, and then I'll be like, okay, go ahead. It's your turn. Yeah, can you tell me like what we're doing? I'll even be like, somebody say back to me what we're doing. And then we do all that. And they're like, yeah, can you, what are we doing? I forgot. Oh my God. Okay, I think your words just popped up, Susan. Okay. I'll share my screen one more time so you can see it. So you can see your words that got added. And there they are.
Thank you. Can we just take a moment to see what we got here? I was so panicky that I was like not following directions that I missed the beauty of our words. I love that freedom and equity and love are really big.
Yeah.
And truth and community.
Yeah.
This is a brilliant little program for getting results and seeing what happens to as a group. It's really lovely.
You can create your own mentees by going here to mentimeter.com. And you can use them in your classrooms or to get group thinks. I've used them to do, I'll show you just right quick. You can do multiple choice. You can do, this is called a word cloud. You can do open-ended questions, scales, ranking, Q&A, quizzes if you're using them to teach, different slides, things like that. So they're really helpful when you're teaching in a virtual setting to get your students engaged with stuff. And you can add GIFs on them and all kinds of stuff. So it's really fun.
It strikes me that it would be a great tool for a board meeting, which where Janet and I are frequently teaching artists. But to reflect back to them what it is they're saying, where there is unity and where things are outlying. So I love that. I thought word clouds were there was a lot longer lead time on them. So we did not have a lot of questions that showed up in the chat. So I think we should maybe come back to gallery view and let everybody unmute themselves and just kind of open it up for conversation.
You can also mention if there was something that you appreciated or not about the exercise that we just did.
Or share your own experiences. We got a lot of people in the room who have stuff to share with teaching, being a teaching artist, being at the Mesa Refuge, writing for kids.
Oh, Angela, will you tell people about your book that's coming out on the 18th, please?
You are too kind. Thank you. This is your guys' day, but
I'll put it right there. Just tell them about
Thank you. I appreciate the shout out. Yes, I have a children's book. It's called Ruby's Reunion Day Dinner. I actually have it right here.
Let's see it.
Oh.
So to spotlight you.
It is a gorgeous book. It is so sweet.
So yes, it comes out May 18th, actually next Tuesday. That's when we're having the official book launch event in partnership with Storytime with Mr. LaMotta, who is an Oakland teacher at Emerson. He's wonderful. I mean, he basically, I don't know if anybody, for those of you who don't know him, he started when everything shut down at the start of the pandemic. He took his regularly scheduled story time that he did with his class and put it online as a way to connect and to keep connected. It was so beautiful. And but not only did he connect with his own students, it actually turned into this global sensation where kids from all over the world were watching his story times. And he just has beautiful energy, wonderful energy. He's a wonderful human being. I love watching him read stories out of all the adults other than LeVar Burton. I really like watching Mr. LaMotta read stories. I think he could be the next LeVar Burton reading Rainbow. I'm going to start the petition. But yeah, so we're going to be myself, and it was illustrated by Justenia Sutherland. This is her first debut picture book that she's worked on. She just did such a beautiful job. Her color palettes are very rich and vibrant. The story is about a young girl who at her family's reunion day dinner, especially, so I don't know about everybody else, but in my family, everybody has a signature dish. Like everybody has that one dish they make every year. Nobody else can make it. It is their dish, and don't even try, because then you won't be invited to family reunion next year. But everybody has their signature dish. And so this year, Ruby really wants her own dish. And so she is using her senses as she walks around the kitchen, as everybody's making their creations, trying to figure out what her dish is. And really, I think it's at the core of it, it's a story about how we find our own identity within our family. And she does that through finding her own dish. So we'll be doing a reading of the book. It's the first time Justenia and I will really be doing something in person together. And And then we'll be doing a Q&A and, maybe have some other surprises. I don't know. I'm actually talking to both Peter and Justenia after this. So we'll figure it out. But yeah, so that's next Tuesday. Again, thank you so much for sharing your time with me, Tiffany.
And you were just an alum of the Mesa.
I was just session, I think 3 or 4 with the wonderful poet Sam Sachs. Turned out Sam and I actually live 6 blocks from each other, so we still are friends and hanging out. He and his partner are coming over for a barbecue next week.
Love it.
It was magical. As Laura said earlier, it was, I think the first thing that I said, Kamala was there, was that walking into the gathering room was like being at Hogwarts for writers. I was like, what am I going to get sorted into? Like, this is going to be great. I'm so excited. And it did prove to be as magical as I had hoped. So yeah, I loved the Mesa residency. Thank you again. It was a beautiful time. It was a much needed time. There were things you hope, I think I envisioned that I would be able to disconnect and be in nature. And of course that didn't happen. There were a lot of things that happened during my 2 weeks there. Being from Minneapolis, Minnesota, I was there during the time that the verdict came back about Derek Chauvin. Mm. And that was, really hard to be kind of disconnected. But in retrospect, I think it was also a really much needed time just to be by myself, to think about the circumstances of the event and what it meant to people, my friends and family back in Minneapolis, and what they're still continuing to deal with. There's a lot that's not shown on television or in the media, but it has been constant. It has not stopped with a lot of the police presence, the National Guard presence. Like, it very much is a militarized state, and it has been that way since this all happened. And so the verdict was there was a lot of, obviously, as everybody can understand, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of emotion, and it hasn't stopped. And so being at Mesa, for me personally, and I got the tower, I was in the tower above everything and looking out over the marsh and the bog and the beauty of everything, to just understand who I was in this greater universe, and the fact of how we all just are connected. And it's kind of ridiculous that we don't see that. But the reality is that we're all stardust that are trapped in meat suits, as one of our Manzanita writers once shared, which I thought was beautiful, about the meat suits. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to add my own little flavor to that. And we are all stardust in meat suits, and we have expiration dates. So why not just enjoy it as much as we can? So that's what I love.
Angela, I love that you shared with us. There was so much going on in your life that you were really concerned right up until you started, that you couldn't take the time to go. And that it was your husband who kind of said, look, you're going. And it's okay. Whatever you're putting down, we'll be here when you get back. And I love that he had the wisdom to know that you needed that time you may not have disconnected totally, but you can't help but be in nature at the Mesa Refuge. And so many residents say, I can't tell you exactly how, but it was life-changing for me. I went to the Mesa Refuge as a writer, 8.5 years ago. And it was obviously it was completely life-changing for me. I'm the only one who figured out how to stay. But I do remember that sensation of like, whoa, it's really quiet here. And all the residents sign the closets. And so you can just open up your closet when you're feeling like, I can't do it. And you think, okay, they all felt this way and they did it, and I have to do it for them. Mm-hmm. And then you go back out and try again. So I'd love to hear from any of the Mesa alums, which might be just Laura and Tiffany at this point. How did the Mesa Refuge change you?
I had a wonderful time. When Janet called me and asked, did I want to go, have the retreat and all that kind of stuff, my nephew was sitting on my neck. Like when I answered the phone, he was just like, Auntie! And he was climbing on my back. And Janet was like, do you want a 2-week getaway? And I was like, oh my God, yes. Yes, I do. Please. She didn't say when the dates were. She didn't say anything else. She didn't even say where it was. It could have been next door to my house. And I was like, yes. So that was the first thing. And then I was there with Savala Trzymski. I think I'm getting that last name wrong, but Savala. And we had such a great time. So it was like that camaraderie and, keeping each other safe. And, the sky was just so beautiful at night, just really seeing that night sky. And both Savala and I are city girls. So I think it was either Susan or Kamala who had mentioned that there was like a fox or a wolf or it was something.
A bobcat.
A bobcat. They were telling the story about the bobcat. So me and Savala are total city girls. So we were like, and we saw some eyes out there. So we were like, just running all through the house. And then the last night we were there, and I am afraid of bugs. It's just what it is. I've accepted that about myself. I don't judge myself about it. The last night we were there, we had the door open because it was so hot, and we had the light on. And it was like, I don't know what kind of bugs they were. They were all these, they were termites. It was like a swarm of termites came in, and Savala and I were like, So it was just like this beautiful, like city-fied expression in the woods, and just getting to understand that, nature comes in the house, and that nature is all around, and that actually you are nature, honey. So it's okay to get comfortable. So I think that was just that separation was one of the changing things in my experience.
And when you and Savala were there, we had a gathering for Judith Tannenbaum's family and friends out in the orchard, which is the only place we could be socially distanced, get our chairs far enough apart. And that was such a beautiful event.
Yeah.
I think for many of us, it was the first time that we'd been together in months. And you read a story that just really stayed with me. And that's the other thing that happens. You're there alone with your fellow resident or two, but then towards the end of the stay, we come together. And Peter Barnes, who's our founder, and in this case, Mark Dowie, who'd known Judith, and Judith's daughter, Sada, was there. And it was such a shared experience that everybody just felt so wonderful about you having been there and having received this gift, which obviously spoke to you, and you did so much with it. And that was wonderful for all of us.
You had the opportunity. I think Aya has her hand up.
Yeah, God, I'm loving these stories. I wanted to, just especially like I'm trying to visualize termites, which I don't even quite know what they look like.
Oh my God.
I just wanted to say I'm really interested to hear from both of you, but particularly from Tiffany, thinking about being a teaching artist. And, I noticed there are a lot of women here on the call. I feel like part of the setup around gender in the arts is that men get tracked to be the geniuses who everybody, you know, parts the way for. And the women, like, if we get to practice, get tracked to teach. And I think that's even more true for Black women. And yet, like, teaching is really a thing in and of itself and is really powerful. But it's so easy to sort of get stuck there, which is why I think it's so great that, you know, both you and Laura. Also, Laura, I hadn't heard your deal about like moving from editing to, you know, being a writer. So I'd just love to hear you speak about kind of the stuff of teaching that's so beautiful, and also the piece around teaching that, like, all care work is very feminized. And the fight to do your own work.
Laura?
Yeah, I mean, so editing also is a very female-dominated world, right? So I think all of the underpaid, usually undervalued jobs. And it is tricky because it does tend to be underpaid, right? So, you know, taking this path often means not a secure route. And for some people, and a lot of people, it's not even having the choice around it, right? I think with COVID for me, I've been thinking about money and capitalism and creativity and teaching and service, and trying to just think how there can be abundance in it. And I know that sounds kind of hippy-dippy, but like, to try to follow the paths that feel like they're the right paths to follow. And I mean, I'm lucky that I have help around me, so I can kind of make that work. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't know, Tiffany, what?
Yeah, I think this is a hard question for me to answer in that respect. It's not because these things don't come up. It's more because I focus on doing what I love, and really try to focus on that part. So, so there's a place where I can't necessarily speak on that. I know that there are injustices and there's wage gaps and things like that. And so I know that exists. But I think, you know, for me to be like, yeah, and then this and this and that, and I'm supposed to be a genius. Like, you know, that's not where I'm not the academic type that way. So I find teaching and connecting with youth something that I just love. But if it were something that I was like, you know, this person, we started off the same, and now they're this, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I'm rambling. Here's the point. I can't really speak to it in a way that's meaningful to answer your question, I think. Yeah.
I've been feeling it a lot for teachers this year, like who are in the classroom. Because I have, you know, seen people burnt out and still abused, right, by parents, and race has definitely been right in the middle of that, with like white parents being like, oh, we want our kids in schools, and a real, I mean, as we all know, right, access and equity and all those things have been pretty messed up. And I know some teachers who are like, I don't know if I can stay in this industry. So I guess I'd shout out to those teachers for just hanging in there.
Yeah, I think for me, what happens is, as a disabled person, I am not in a lot of social places a lot. So I, you know, teach from home. Like, I'm very insulated. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm just very insulated from a lot of things. So, so that's really, yeah, I'm pretty insulated. And like I said, I don't think that that's necessarily great. But I know that it's a part of my life that I do hang back for different reasons, especially socially. You know, I don't be kicking it with people like that. So, and it's not, you know, it's not really a good thing, but it is what it is. So I'm not answering your question at all. Like, you don't do nothing. That's your point. Like, just say you don't do nothing. I'm like, okay, fine.
No, protecting yourself, Tiffany, sounds like a really good thing to be doing.
Do we have any other final questions from the group? Sorry, the policemen are like getting revved up over there.
Tiffany's like, what? Fireman? Makes it sound a little better.
Question, can both of you talk to what future projects do you have coming up on the horizon?
Yes. Do you want to go first?
You go ahead. I don't have a whole lot to share on that front.
Well, so I have a picture book coming out in 2023. It's called I Want to Be Big. And it is based on little Jason, who's my nephew, who most people, if you follow me, you know, my nephew is a big part of my life. So it's just a book based on Black boy magic. And, you know, so I'm really excited about that. And then I have some things that aren't contract signed yet, so I can't mention them. But I have a middle grade novel in the works. So, yeah, so I'm really excited. And you'll see on my, within the next couple of weeks, I'll announce something that I'm very proud of, that I was very surprised by an award that I received that I'm not at liberty to say because.
Oh, goody. We're going to stay tuned.
Yeah, so stay tuned to get some more information.
Laura, can you talk a little bit about the Manzanita Project?
Sure. And actually, that's related to, I guess, what I'm working on. So the Manzanita Project is kind of a hub. It's sort of more, it keeps growing organically. And at first, I was going to publish California history books. And now I'm thinking of publishing more broadly, kind of grassroots publishing, and maybe starting with this book. Elisa Clevin, who's here, has heard about this, about the kid who goes to the beach and collects things and makes something. So kind of a community-based publishing platform. But the piece that's also grown is this mentoring and workshop program that Angela is part of. We have 9 members. We have monthly workshop meetings. We have a support group. And then we have people from publishing. I was one of them who have created their own books who come in and share what they do. So it's just become a really beautiful space of support and uplifting and encouragement and nourishment for a whole group of amazing writers.
And your project is off to a great start.
Thank
Laura.
you.
Do you have your picture to show people?
Get it.
I love that character. We had a little workshop a few weeks ago with Molly Woodward, wonderful Molly, who was also my editor for one book at Heyday. And we did a picture book workshop because I'm a picture book creator too.
Yeah, Lisa does gorgeous picture books, as some of you may know.
Thanks. But Laura did this just fabulous story and started some illustrations that I just adored, and the concept is beautiful. So I hope you'll finish up with that, and we can have another workshop at some point too.
Yeah, because we all can do it. I think that's my 2021 message to me, which I don't know why it took this long, but we all can do it. We all can not just write, we can all create. Right. It's
so accessible if you approach it in a non-scary way, you know. Can you hear me? I had trouble, as you can tell, with my camera. It wasn't staying on my computer. So I'm at this weird angle and I'm dark, but
yeah, we can see you.
But anyway, as a collage artist, I love the non-intimidating materials. I've also taught a lot of art with kids, and my daughter's a teacher in the Oakland public schools, and I go in and teach art with her kids. And there's something just so, fun and just not scary about starting with just cutting and pasting and found objects. So if any of you want to branch out in that direction, that might be a good segue into it.
Definitely. No, it was really liberating.
And some of the most beautiful picture books are made with collage. My favorites, like Leo Leone and, just Eric Carle, lots of them. Lois
I think that as the COVID period of our lives begins to wind down, I think there's just this creativity that is bursting forth.
It is.
Well, maybe it was just too hard to even really be in touch with it when we were locked down, when lockdown was all we could see in the future. But Robin Wall-Kimmerer, who's a Mesa alum, talks about this as being ceremony time. This is deep time when the stories emerge and they're going to be popping out. And so I think we're going to see just an incredible burst of beautiful work coming forth. And I'm so glad that the Manzanita Project is in place, Laura. It started before COVID. And God knows we learned how important community and workshops are to keeping us all going. So Janet, I want to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what's coming up at Chapter 510 and to make a very special announcement.
Thank you so much. I know Kamala's moving me to speak or whatever. Well, we've just moved, Chapter 510 just moved to the old Oakland neighborhood, Swan's Market. It was great to show Sarah the new space and point out some of Judith's furniture. And Bob and Edith's furniture, Judith's parents. And today is actually Edith Tannenbaum's birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Bubby. So we are working over the summer to build out our new space, our new writing center, bookmaking studio with some of Judith's paper, and our beautiful department of Make Believe, working with Gensler, Oakland, and we'll open it this fall in October 1, the Friday, October 1, and over the next few months, we're going to we're feeling very pregnant right now with a lot of books. And we have a postcard series coming out, a musical that Tiffany worked on, a collection of a play that's talking about science fiction in the year 2050. We have a lot to celebrate, particularly with students. This has been a hard time. Imagine having a Tiffany while the world is the way it is. It's been a lifeline for so many students to have Miss T when maybe they're only getting 4 hours a week of instruction, to be able to land in a time with Miss T. So our programs have done well during COVID because writing can happen anywhere remotely. And our editors are working, our organization has moved. And I wanted to announce we have a forthcoming new Judith Tannenbaum Teaching Artist Fellowship, which we will be awarding to Perla Yasmin Melendez, who is here on the call today, and who is one of the most accomplished practicing teaching artists. She's worked with our students at Acorn Elementary, Hoover Elementary. I met her mother, and her mother basically said, Perla does so many things, which is true. She's a chef. She's a postpartum doula. She's our creative director, as well as a really inspiring book artist. And so Perla will be coming out to the refuge, to Point Reyes this summer in July, and is really looking forward to it. And inspired by Judith, who was a kind of a residency. I know you do bar hopping. Well, she was like a residency hopper, and she wrote so many books and discovered so many ideas at different residencies. So Perla will be gathering next year sometime, doing a talk just like Tiffany did today. It was so great to be together, particularly with Debbie and Sarah here, Judith's family. And We will today, and with Kamala and Susan, we'll let you know more about Perla in the weeks to come. But part of being a Judith Fellow, is convening a talk and sharing with community, just like what happened today. So we'll invite you all back to Perla's talk.
Thank you, Judith. And welcome, Perla. Congratulations. Do you want to just say a few words?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you so much to everyone for making this possible. I'm so proud and honored to honor Judith in this way and to follow in the footsteps of such amazing writers, Tiffany, Angela, Laura, and all the Rebecca Solnit. Like, I've done my research, and Robin Wall-Kilner. Like, I'm just so excited. I need this time so bad.
I'm sure you do. I always thought as a child, like the best job, my favorite show was The Millionaire, was the guy who bestowed $1 million on some unsuspecting person. And as I've grown up, I've thought that maybe like being the person to deliver the news of the MacArthur Genius Awards might be the best job. But I think Kamala and I feel like letting upcoming Mesa applicants know that they, in fact, have been selected to come to the Mesa Refuge and to see how that starts working on them right away. Your residency has already started. So.
I love that. And Janet, I remember when she gave me the news, it was totally unsuspecting. It was, I was out doing grocery shopping and I called her and she's like, I have great news for you. I'm like, wait a minute, I called you.
That's the best.
So she gave me the news and I was just, totally taken by surprise and so excited and so grateful. So
we can't wait to see you. It'll be soon. It'll be quite soon.
Really soon, yeah.
Well, it looks like we're out of time. This has been so much fun. We all needed to be informally sitting around the gathering room, drawing our hands and writing our words and adding them together. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to Janet, my co-host from Chapter 510. Thank you to Tiffany and Laura, our beautiful alums, for sharing the Mesa Refuge. And Laura, I want to just kind of end with you. If people want to be part of the Change Maker campaign, they can support you directly. So say a few words about that.
I'm helping to fundraise for the Mesa Refuge to support all of these wonderful people and things. So the way you can do it through me is I've got like a special kind of birthday fundraiser going. So you can just help feed my kind of competitive side where I'm like trying to make $1,500 for the Mesa Refuge. And, I haven't quite made it yet. So the link is below. And you just know if you put money towards the Mesa Refuge, it's supporting residencies for what you've heard about here. It really is such a special, magical place and so important, right? That we have that kind of place to rest and be creative and connect to nature. And it doesn't get honored, I think, nearly enough in this world that creative people really need that. So the link has just been shared. I'd be delighted if you wanted to contribute. My birthday's May 30th, so you got a little time.
We got a little time, but don't put it off.
Right.
Don't dawdle.
Don't dawdle, exactly. I want to thank Kamala Tully, who's our program manager, for manning the Zoom board and making this all happen. It looks seamless and informal, but it's because Kamala's put us through our paces a couple of times that it all works out. Kamala, you got a final word?
Just thank you all for joining us, and especially Tiffany and Laura. Yeah, just I was crying as well, Tiffany, when you read your piece. So you just took us there immediately, and And I love seeing all the residents too, because I think of each of you with the stories that you have written at the Mesa. So it's amazing how those stories stay imprinted.
Okay, thanks everybody. We will hang out here for a few minutes, but we're done. That's a wrap for today. We'll have another event coming up on June 3rd, and it's entirely different. Laura Bazelon, who's an alum, has written a courtroom thriller. Ooh. And so that's going to be really fun to read. So,
and actually, on that note, shout out to Aya De Leon, who's written some of the best thriller, heist, kind of fun beach reading. Summer's coming up, and it doesn't just have to be beach time, but highly recommend them.